Talk with no chaser. Empowers you with a choice. She gives you straight talk, no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. She provides a platform of growth and gives the dying people hope. She gives you straight talk, no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. Welcome to the Straight No Chaser Show on intellectualradio.com and iHeartRadio station. This is your host, Rhea Ray Harris, and I am so grateful to be with everyone this evening. Tonight, I have, actually, we're friends, and his wife and our friends, but tonight he is coming here as the Sipologist, the CEO of Sip and Savor Chicago. Welcome, Trez, Pugh. Thank you so much for being a guest. I know we were wrangling for dates.
No, yeah, it's been months, but we got it together.
We got it together.
Indeed.
So, first things first, were you born and raised in Chicago?
Yes, ma'am. Born and raised in Chicago on the north side, to be exact.
And they love to know that. I don't know why, but everyone loves to know that about where on the north side.
I grew up in Old Town, right out there, 1200 North, right by.
Okay.
I'm a transplant now, though. I'm a South Sider.
Had to move around.
Indeed.
Where'd you go to school?
Grammar school at Franklin Fine Arts, high school at was called Waller, but it turned to Lincoln Park over there on Armitage, and so.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, when you were younger, was your vision to be an entrepreneur?
To be honest, no. I was raised just to work hard, take care of your family, pay your bills, do the right thing, try to get an education and retire, to be honest.
Because something went off, some light went off.
Right.
It said, I may not want to do that.
Exactly.
When did that light go off and why?
That's a good question. When I was growing up, it wasn't a lot of people that I hung around that owned their own thing. It was mostly people that worked. As I got older and I was in the Marine Corps, so I traveled around a lot and I started getting exposed to things. And I would say about my mid-20s, early 30s, I got into the real estate game and I started meeting people from that game that had their own businesses but used real estate to start it. So it kind of got my appetite started then. Maybe I can do this. But at the same time, I still wanted to work for that security, So I would say about my late 20s, early 30s, I started seeing people doing things.
And I'm asking this for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Were you looking at a diverse culture base of people, or was there a particular culture base that you were seeing that were entrepreneurs?
Well, traveling abroad in the Marine Corps, I seen different people of all colors, all, background, ethnicity, economic background. So I figured if I can put something together that consisted of something that there was a need for, I think all people like something nice. I just had to figure out what that nice was. So
the real estate business, because business, if you're working it,
indeed,
to transition into owning and become the CEO of Sip and Savor Chicago, because those are different ventures.
Yeah. So it was kind of a fluke, to be honest. I had a childhood friend who approached me. He had always drunk coffee since we was in grammar school.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And I known him over 40 years. Anyway, long story short, I was in the real estate game, so I was doing pretty good at the time. I had a couple buildings, a few commercial pieces, and he approached me about putting a coffee house in one of my, and I was just going to rent it out to him. That's all I initially wanted to do, but it was a method in his madness. He was like, no, I need a partner. And I don't blame him because at the time I was capital heavy. I had the bricks or the property and the money. Him and another friend of his had the equipment and the know-how. So it was kind of like a marriage. I bring money in the building, you bring the equipment. Let's do this.
Okay. And were there business plans and all that, or was it just
No.
we have an idea, we
Mhm.
have all that we think we need to get it done, and we're just going to do it?
Yeah. We kind of just jumped out there willy-nilly, to be honest. And if I can tell anybody anything, you really do need to plan. So I was hardly ever there. I traveled a lot with my other job. So we didn't have a real plan. I threw the money in, gave them the place, and they sold coffee. You know, needless to say, it didn't work out. And
So that was not the original Sip and Savor.
no, that was Bronzeville Coffee House. But, you know, great Frederick Douglass said, without struggle, there is no progress. So that was my struggle, Bronzeville Coffee House. And from that, you know, things didn't work out and it kind of morphed into, I stayed there and made it kind of a family-owned business and named it Sip and Savor.
Now, once we saw how the struggle was going,
Mm-hmm.
did you do something differently when you decided I'm going to continue with this venture?
Oh, for sure. Well, what I did is I surrounded myself with people that had the skill set that I know we needed to be successful. You know, vis-a-vis a nice graphic person, you know, made sure I spent more time on the marketing piece, did my due diligence on research. You know, at first I was more or less an investor. Get these guys money, you know, you guys
And let
make it
them
happen.
run it.
Right. So when it was just me, you know, I took a more vested interest and I had more skin in the game. And I know how I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be something that was really nice. I got this saying at our coffee house. It's called C to the fifth power. It's got to be crisp, clean, classy, consistent, and the most important piece is the customer service got to be monumental. And so I built the model on that and based on 5 other things where coffee and community meet. And when you put that 5 and 5 together, you get a perfect 10.
Now, because I've been to, this is my favorite, my, you know, where you start off as sometimes your favorite.
Right.
So I started when I used to live in Bronzeville, going to the site on 43rd Street, on 43rd and Forestville.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying this because you're on the show. I'm saying because it's true. Every time I've gone in there, everyone has been so pleasant.
Yeah.
And there are always people there working and eating little dishes and sipping coffee and having meetings and all this. But you don't have just one Sip and Savor.
No.
Now, there's one in Hyde Park.
Yes.
What's the exact address of that one?
That's 5301 South Hyde Park Boulevard in the Del Prado building.
Now, is my favorite the first, or is
that's the flagship?
That's the flagship.
That's where it all started. I own that building.
And then the Hyde Park venue is the second one.
Yes.
And how did you go from the flagship location? You know what? I'm going to basically franchise.
Well, it's a piece in there that I didn't discuss. I had a place called Regent's Cup that was in Regent Luxury Apartments. And the way that, I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. A group of gentlemen came into Bronzeville Coffee House at the time and liked it. And they wanted me to open up one in a high rise. And I know I couldn't call something Bronzeville Coffee House inside a Hyde Park. So I got the name of the building, rehabbed it, and called it. Well, I was there for probably 2 or 3 years. But while I was there, even though I closed it after my lease was up, another group of people approached me and they liked it and wanted me to go to the Hyde Park Del Prado. And that's where I started changing the name, Sip and Savor. I'd already closed Bronzeville because I had issues with my partners. Kept it closed until all the legal stuff was finished. And I came back to my building, unboarded it, rehabbed it up. That's where it all started.
And then
went to
Sip and Savor to Hyde Park.
Right.
Because I'm sitting here going, how does this feel when people approach you and say, I like your product so much that I want you to stay here and also bring it over to this location? How does that feel? Because some people would be afraid to make that move.
Right. Well, it's humbling, to be honest. I mean, right now, Chatham, South Shore, Pullman, and Woodlawn are trying to get me to go over there. And you know, I'm from the school of BB King. You can make your move too soon. So I mean, it's humbling when people come in. They look at your operation, they look at your product, the service you provide, and it makes you feel good. I mean, but you got to be smart enough to know that and keep that same quality, that same level of service each where you go. You don't want to diminish your brand by opening up too quick and can't get the right employees in there.
Because what is that show I watch where Undercover Boss?
Yeah, what they learned about.
When somebody goes out, the CEO typically goes out and finds out that, oh, it is not as consistently run as I thought, or something that I thought was a great idea way up here doesn't work on the ground level. So because of how you've handled this, do you feel like you know what's going on up here and down here and have been able to keep that consistency?
I try hard to keep it consistent. The key to the piece is this. As I mentioned earlier, you got to surround yourself with people that have a skill set that understand what your goals are. So I have mystery shoppers that go out that I pay, you know, old, young, black, white, you know, different ethnicities to go in there and look at certain things in my store. Is it clean? Were you treated right? Did they greet you? Did they upsell? Is the bathrooms neat? Is the place in order? That keeps me on point, and I get reports from them. I have a marketing team that handles all of the stuff I have to do. I have a graphic design arts person that's always going in my place. So I try my best to be consistent, but when you're dealing with some of the younger millennials, you know, that deal with some of the issues, you're gonna have some issues. But for the most part, I got a real good crew, and they understand, and they buy into my philosophy that the customers are really important, and we want to provide a place that's almost like home for them when they come in there.
Because when you closed down the Bronzeville Coffee House and you reopened that Sip and Savor, what year was that?
I closed Bronzeville in 2011. I came back in 2013 at the end to open up Sip and Savor. And
the Hyde Park location was opened soon after?
It was open a little bit before I reopened Bronzeville, like in 2012. So it was almost back to back. I've been in there a year. Then the community was, you know, when you coming back, you know, we need the coffee house, and, you know.
So then 43rd Street opened again.
Back up again.
Now, last year, which was 2016, there was another move, which was on Wabash, which is the South Loop neighborhood. Yeah. What's the exact address there?
Michigan. It's 2239 South Michigan, and that's more or less a Sip and Savor Express, where you can just get coffee, tea, and everything. But there was a method in my madness on that just to get the brand over there, and it's a nice venue, salsa, jazz, live performances.
And how did you decide, again, because there's a process to this particular community, because I don't know Chicago very well or used to live here. I had a girlfriend that had been gone for 15 years, but she came back, her jaw was just dropped because of the changes. What did the South Loop population offer? You say, I'm willing to open another Sip and Savor here.
Well, it's a whole different demographic over there. Median income is real high. A lot of them are your, excuse me for saying it, Starbucks people. They're going to run the Starbucks all day, every day because of status. You know, something about walking around with Starbucks. I wanted to introduce something else to them that was not just coffee, but an experience. And that's what I try to sell. You know, it's not just a coffee house I provide, or that we provide. It's a business incubator. It's a studying place. It's a place to come there and meet people, business professionals, networking. I call it the Ear Hustle Cafe. If you go in there and just be quiet and listen, you'd be surprised what you hear,
in there,
who's doing what, and some of the heavy people that come through there, you know.
Now, we made another move with Ain't She Sweet?
Yes, a collaboration with my girl Margot.
A collaboration, and that is in the Beverly neighborhood.
Yes, ma'am.
What, again, because that just opened this year, correct?
Yeah, about a couple months ago. Yeah.
What was the motivation? Because I'm like, okay, wait a minute. There's a lot going on here.
It is. Margot approached me when she was getting ready to expand and asked me would I be interested in doing another location, and
because she is next door
to the 43rd
to the
piece.
43rd Street.
We neighbors.
Yes.
And she was like, I'm about to expand, let's do this. I want you to come with me. And I told her I'm in the process of negotiating the deal at the Rosenwald on 47th in Michigan, and I got a lot going on. She was like, no, we could do this. So after a little arm twisting, and a
little strong arm,
a couple glasses of wine out talking. Next thing you know, I'm over there at Beverly. And so that's how that happened,
Because compared to where you have been, you've been southeast.
Right.
So when I saw that, I said, oh, wait a minute.
What is he doing?
He's going way away from home.
Right.
But I actually can respect that because it exposes people who may not work downtown and do not live southeast to Sip and Savor Chicago, because I was surprised to find out there are people that don't leave their neighborhoods.
Oh, for sure.
So if I'm in Bronzeville and I don't leave Bronzeville, I'll know Sip and Savor. But if I'm in Beverly, I've never even heard of it.
Right.
So how has that collaboration worked as far as the community? Have they been receptive?
Excuse me. Yeah, they have. And anytime you open up a new place, and my brand wasn't as well, like you said, over there, it's a matter of, a lot of marketing, getting them in there to taste test, letting them know we're there for the community. I got some things scheduled where I'm going to do like a mommy and me day. I'm not open on Sundays currently, but I'm thinking about opening up on Sundays so you can come in there and do paint stuff with the kids, because it's more of a family-oriented community, and I'm still learning the community.
Right, because Beverly has been really heavy as far as, like I said, the middle class for decades.
Yeah.
So every community has its own style, because like I said, the South Loop was different from Bronzeville, which is different from Hyde Park, even though they're right next to each other.
Right.
And so Beverly is also different. And let's back up to the concept of the Rosenwald, which is we used to call the Rosenwald the Carter. From New Jack City, because my girlfriend was a social worker. And she's like, girl, it's one way in, one way out of this camp. I don't know about this, And so it is that square block on 47th Street from Michigan to Wabash, down to 46th Street and across. So it's a square. And it had been vacant for so long. And I had wondered myself, how long is it going to take? And then all of a sudden, because they had been talking and talking and talking about it, all of a sudden, here comes the plan.
Right.
So what made you think about putting Sip and Savor in that particular location? Because that's still technically Bronzeville, even though it's in another section of Bronzeville.
Again, yes, Lord just bless me. I was approached by the developer and the alderman, Pat Dow, who's my girl. I love her to
awesome.
Death. Yeah,
she's awesome.
Matter of fact, she's alderman over the South Loop piece. She thinks the world of me. She's always talking about my coffee house and drumming me up. And, I guess she met with the developers that had flew in. I was, bidding on rehabbing the Rosenwald, and the developer was so impressed with the coffee house. She said, I got to have one of these in that place, and I do it. She was like, oh, this is my guy, Trez. And, one thing led to another. His secretary called me. We met a couple times at the W Hotel and, tried to ink a deal. And now the rest is history. I'm just working with architects to get up in there.
Because, and I have to say this for people that don't know Pat Dowell, and everyone has their opinions about folks, but I've actually met her a few times. And she's come out to events that we've hosted just because they were in the community. She didn't know me from a can of paint. And I have to respect an alderman who takes time out of their schedule to say, my constituents are doing something and it looks positive. Let me go support it. And was willing to pay to come in. I said, well, hold on, that's okay. But I have to say that because we're so often so dogmatic about the political scene in Chicago.
I agree.
And we are so debasing of people. I have to put a human face on her. And that's, no, I don't, like I said, I still don't really know her, but I can respect what I've seen of her.
And I would be remiss if I didn't mention, I wouldn't have had a coffee house on 43rd if it wasn't for Toni Preckwinkle. She was the alderman before she became the Cook County Board president.
She was the fourth ward alderman.
She let me do, I brought a presentation to her. It was nothing on 43rd. I was like a pioneer, and she seen my vision. Most people looked at me and said, you want to put a coffee house on 43rd? It was nothing but empty lots and, abandoned buildings. It was nothing over there. And she bought into what I was trying to do.
Again, people have their opinions of Miss Preckwinkle.
Yeah.
But a righteous turn, you give them credit.
Always do.
And so I give you much respect for that, because I remember when she was the alderman over there.
Yeah.
Actually, I had an associate who was her chief of staff at one point, and I remember how if the senior citizens had to go somewhere, if he needed to take them in his car on his back, they had to get there, because that's just what that was. So I give her much respect. When she was alderman, she was on top of things. Haven't seen a whole lot as the county board president. I know my coworkers go back and forth about it, but again, I give her credit where it's due.
Me and you both, sister.
So I appreciate this. I did not know.
Yeah.
Now we have to talk about something that is near and dear to both of us, which is behind who you are, not just as an entrepreneur, but as a man. Because I had mentioned to you before we got on the air, I'd read the post about your dad. And I want you to say a little bit about that, because in the world today, a lot of people seem to discount the importance of fathers and fatherhood, or don't even understand what it is, because we've had so many generations, in some cases, that have not really had a dad in the house, a dad to turn to. What was it about your father that inspired you to be the man you've become?
My dad was just disciplined. I mean, you know how somebody sets an example by always being consistent. I mean, he put the C in consistent. He would go to work 14, 15 hours. And I remember as a shorty, he would come home, and we were little, but he would come out there with us and do our chores with us and everything. Come in the house, read his paper, go downstairs, work on stuff. He just was always busy. He was a hard worker. Didn't talk a whole lot. He was more of a disciplinary type of guy, but he just always worked. And he took care of family. I'm the youngest of 6 kids. And my dad passed a few years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, really. Time goes so quick. At 94.
Wow.
I was an oops baby. They had me leave. But one thing he always instilled in me was respect your elders. Do what you say what you do. All a man got in this world is his word. You know, don't lie. He said you have no reason to lie to people about anything. Tell them the truth. And so I've always tried to live by that. You know, he could be pretty tough at times, you know, when you try to explain to him some of the stuff you're trying to do, but he was always supportive in what you're doing. When I was doing the real estate thing, he was like, it's going to cost a lot of money, you know, don't take the money away from your family. You know, make sure you're paying your bills and everything. I was like, Dad, I got it covered. He said, well, you know, because stuff is expensive, stuff break down, and, you know, because he did a little real estate, but on a smaller scale, you know. So I just learned from him that don't rush, stay consistent, respect people, keep your word. And it just instilled in me. And just real quick, when I just got the award for a man of excellence, and they did a little shoot of all of us, and I didn't know they was going to put it up on the screen. And I remember telling them, boy, I wish my dad was here to see this and see what I've done, because he always thought that I was moving too quick. You know, son, you done. He would have been so proud to see me on that stage, and that really touched me.
Because you have a mentor even now in the memory.
Oh yeah.
And that's more than a whole lot of people have. So I just wanted to mention that, because the show is about economics and entrepreneurship, enrichment and empowerment, but it's all that is about the community.
Yes.
And one of the biggest issues in the community right now, besides those things, because that is external typically, the internal issue is the household. Yeah. And when you can testify to what a great support your dad was, as well as how he trained you. Like I said, yeah, he was a disciplinarian, but look at how you turned out.
Turned out all right.
You know, yeah, they always talk about, oh, Joe Jackson. I said, been on the corner in Gary slanging dope.
Yeah.
I mean, he may not have been perfect, but look at where they got.
Right.
So I just wanted to put that part in that's important to me. That has been said, because I thought about that. Now, Wait a minute. My cup. Yes, my cup, my gift.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take it tomorrow because I have to. I have
one.
one at work, and I'm like, oh, I've got to
And
replace
you know
one
you
now.
get $1 for the rest of your life, coffee or tea, whenever you bring that.
And I have to drink my tea. So I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. But I need to know a 5-year vision because I'm not so sure that all like I said, things are not. It's not falling in your lap because this is God.
You better believe it.
So I don't believe in happenstance and coincidence. But do you have a vision of where you want Sip and Savor Chicago to be in 5 years?
For sure. If I live in the Lord says so, knock on wood, I'll retire in less than 2 years from my regular job. What I envision is creating a ton of jobs for our youth. I want to make sure that we change these communities and change the whole narrative about Chicago being a bang, bang, shoot it up place, but a place of opportunity where people can come in here instead of worrying about growing up to be a rapper or a ball player. They could own teams, or they can be the person that own a record label, stay on the grind. 5 years, I would like to have anywhere from 100 to 150 stores. People always say, you know, Starbucks gonna come and they gonna throw out a figure or whatever. I'll deal with that when it comes or if it comes, because you always want to begin with the end in mind.
Yes.
But right now, in 5 years, I envision a ton of jobs being created. I see me setting up all kind of scholarships for kids to go to school, teaching them about decision making, problem solving, conflict resolution, staffing and scheduling, where people will come there and say, hey, this ain't just a coffee house. This is an educational platform to catapult me to something bigger and better.
Now, you know, you shouldn't have said that to me. As you know, my mind started spinning instantly. So we're going to have the Sip and Savor Scholarship Fund.
Hey, let's do this.
And we're going to have Sip and Savor University, just like McDonald's.
Might as well.
Why not?
Why not me?
Why not you?
Why not us?
That's right. So we're looking at who, again, are like-minded and are interested in doing some life-changing. Let's talk about how they can get in touch with you if they are investors looking for an investment opportunity, if they are looking for a scholarship opportunity, perhaps, you know, let's see how long it takes to get that in place, or even job shadowing and job training, you know, Sip and Savor University. I know you're in a lot of spots, you know, it's almost like you're in 3 places at once, even though I know you aren't really, but it seems like it. But what's the easiest way for someone to get in touch with you?
I would set my email, Trez, Trez, at SIP, SIP, and AND, Savor, SAVOR, Chicago.com. That's Trez at sipandsavorchicago.com.
And people, we have 43rd and Forestville. We have
53rd and Hyde Park Boulevard. We got 2239 South Michigan. We got 9920 Southwestern, and coming to you real soon, it's going to be 47th in Michigan.
The Old Carter. Fam, we're going to be at the Old Carter, girl. We got to go check this out. And after that, we're going to be somewhere that you're going to see.
Indeed.
And with that, I thank you so much, Trez, for being a guest on the Straight No Chaser show. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you, sweetheart.
And we will definitely talk about getting this scholarship fund. Now, you know, you clicked my mind with that. We got to get that done. I'm about to harass Lisa. Girl, come on, girl. We got to get this together.
She'll be glad to do it.
All right, let's go. Thank you so much for tuning into this segment of the Straight No Chaser show on intellectualradio.com and iHeartRadio station. We will be back next week with another entrepreneur. But be sure to check out one of those Sip and Savor venues, and Ain't She Sweet?
Indeed.
Either in Bronzeville or in Beverly, because we have folks doing something positive in our communities, and we need to uphold that. And with that, have a great and peaceful evening. Be prosperous, everyone.
It's straight talk with no chaser. He gives the people a voice, empowers you. choice. She gives you straight talk, no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. She provides a platform of growth and gives the dying people hope. She gives you straight talk, no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser. Straight talk with no chaser.